What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV. In today's video, continued coverage of E3 2017. We'll be breaking down the Sony PlayStation 4 press conference. I've got some Uncharted 4 multiplayer gameplay for you, which is very fitting as Sony opened their press conference this year with Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which is a hard expansion to Uncharted 4. I believe you can download it as an add-on, or it will be purchasable in stores as its own game for $40, if I'm not mistaken. It's not going to be a full game. It's really just a hard expansion for Uncharted, where you don't play as Nathan Drake, the first mainstay in the franchise where you actually play as a different character. I believe you get to swap characters between Chloe and Nadine. Nadine, a new character from Uncharted 4, Chloe being a character since Uncharted 2. So it's a big leap in a different direction for the Uncharted franchise, giving us the ability to play as other characters. I'm not sure if this means it will have more expansions for Uncharted in the future, because they did say that the story for Drake is over as of the end of Uncharted 4. So we could still see more Uncharted games in the future with different characters, maybe a Sully game. That would be really awesome. But that's all we really got with this gameplay footage. It was more cinematic stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of gameplay, but it looks like there will be some team building, and you will have to use these characters in unison to progress through the game. Second to appear, Sony main stage, Guerrilla Games brought us DLC footage from Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds expansion coming out later this year. Now, I've yet to play Horizon Zero Dawn, though I've heard it's a phenomenal game. I will be certainly picking it up at some point, and maybe the Frozen Wilds expansion will be on my shopping list as well, but I can't offer you any more information as there wasn't a ton to go around. It was a fairly limited cinematic trailer. Stepping into new IP territory now, Days Gone is an upcoming zombies game, which if you've ever played an Uncharted or Last of Us title, you will feel very familiar towards, as it seems they've taken a ton of notes from Naughty Dog's book. Now, I won't complain because Naughty Dog makes some incredible games, and it'll be interesting to see the parallels between Days Gone and the Uncharted and Last of Us series in terms of appearance and gameplay mechanics. It's also interesting to see how they're using the zombies in this game. The zombies are treated more as a weapon or an obstacle rather than the main enemy. You're engaging enemy factions and using those zombies as a weapon, as seen in the gameplay clip that was shown at E3. They used sound and funneling techniques to move the zombies from one area to another so that they would attack the enemy faction and you could sneak in unnoticed and complete your objective. So it's pretty interesting how they're using that, how it stacks up against other zombies games in our culture. Normally zombies are the main enemy, so it's going to be interesting to see them used differently. Continuing on the theme of new IP, Detroit Become Human landed on a ton of radars recently. This is a third-person action-adventure, sci-fi, story-driven decision drama. So everything that you do in the world will impact the outcome of the story at the end of the game. Very similar to Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain, both of which I would heavily recommend if you haven't played already. This one looks pretty interesting. They're adding that sci-fi element. You're playing as an android trying to free the other androids from the human race, and you can either do that with violence or pacifism. So you can be a very violent revolution, or you can try to reason with the humans and get freedom for your quote-unquote people. Really interesting looking game. I'm interested to see the cultural significance of the game itself. It looks like it's going to speak to a greater calling than just being a video game, and that's always interesting when they have games like that. But if the gritty realism of a sci-fi future taken over by androids isn't for you, you can always try A Distant Past and fighting giant rock creatures. Shadow of the Colossus made a brief appearance at Sony's E3 press conference this year with a small trailer. It appears to be a remaster, though I could be wrong about that. There was not too much information, to say the least. Another great idea for A Distant Past or slightly alternate universe game would be Skyrim VR. I mentioned this in my Bethesda press conference breakdown, how a lot of people were talking about a Skyrim VR, but it wasn't announced at Bethesda's press conference. It was actually announced at the PlayStation press conference for PlayStation VR. Other slightly more indie VR titles were announced as well, though none were exactly noteworthy. In terms of noteworthiness, Destiny 2 had a small gameplay trailer, giving us our first glimpse at the main antagonist for the campaign. The story is going to take a much bigger part in Destiny this time around, which I'm very happy with. The original Destiny story was, let's say, lacking. We also got news of a couple exclusive items for PlayStation players by purchasing Destiny 2. If you have Destiny 2 on PlayStation, you will be getting a brand new strike known as Lake of Shadows, the City Apex ship, a bunch of gear, the Borealis exotic weapon, which appears to be a sniper rifle, though it could be wrong. It could be a fusion rifle or something like that. There is also the Retribution player versus player map. And speaking of player versus player, Call of Duty World War II also had its multiplayer reveal trailer. I'll be breaking down this one in another video, as well as any other Call of Duty World War II information that was dropped. The developers actually went on record the day after the press conference and leaked a bunch of information, so we'll be breaking all of that down in its own particular video. But before the end of this video, we've got 2 more games to discuss, the PlayStation exclusives. So you need to buy a PlayStation 4 if you plan on playing either of these games. So I would definitely recommend that you go ahead out and buy a PlayStation 4. The first is God of War, which is a soft reboot in the series. It's basically God of War 4, but because it's so different from the original trilogy, it's getting its own God of War title. This is God of War PS4. Instead of being a massive, crazy rage machine, we are now a father, and we have to teach our son about the world and protect him, and it's going to be a very Last of Us experience. Picture The Last of Us, but with Kratos, Norse gods, gratuitous nudity, and ripping people's heads off with your bare hands. It'll be an interesting experience to say the least. I'm not sure if I'm totally on board because it will be a far departure from the original trilogy. It'll be a fantastic game regardless. It just may not be the same as what we all remember as God of War. Last, yet quite certainly farthest from the least, Sony decided to round out their presentation with a showing from Insomniac Games' upcoming Marvel's Spider-Man. And no, I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about the new game that's going to kick ass and take names. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man video games. I don't think anybody can play a Spider-Man video game and say that's not for me. I was a big fan of Shattered Dimensions. That was one of my favorite Spider-Man games. But this one will take the cake, hands down. The realism in this game, considering it's a Spider-Man game, the realism, the physics, everything just working so well. It's all of the right elements from all of the right games coming together into a Spider-Man mixed bag. It looks amazing. It looks incredible. I don't even know what to say about this thing. Being developed by Insomniac Games, to go from developing Song of the Deep to this is unreal, unheard of. These stealth takedown sequences look a lot like Batman Arkham. We've got the web shooters. You can swing, you can grapple, you can place web traps, and you can shoot the web darts at people. There's actual physics involved in the swinging. Your web's actually attached to buildings and you use your momentum to swing around obstacles. The world is going to be used to engage enemies. There's a couple instances in the gameplay shown at E3 where we're actually using the environment to our advantage, like grabbing a crane with the web and pulling it over an enemy to knock them out. There's a lot of big ticket characters. So we've got Wilson Fisk, Martin Lee, which is Mr. Negative from the comics. Miles Morales makes an appearance as well, who you might know as Ultimate Spider-Man from the Ultimates universe. There's just so much going on in this game. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. It's going to be so exciting. It's coming in 2018, I believe, but that is going to round out our breakdown of the Sony E3 2017 press conference. Let me know what you think about any of these games in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.